right. So we all know how World War II ends, right? With
Yeah.
Hitler in that Berlin bunker. But what if? What if someone had been able to stop him earlier? Like way earlier.
That's a big question, a really big question.
Definitely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. All the different plots to, to try and kill Hitler.
A lot of what ifs.
Yeah. And for this deep dive, we're going to be checking out this really interesting YouTube video. It's from Little Big Stories of WWII, and it's called, get this, Ways to Kill Adolf Hitler.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah. I thought it was super interesting, just packed with these stories about people who, like, risked it all to try and stop him.
It's a part of history that often gets overlooked, all those individual acts, those small stories of resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where should we start with this? I mean, the title alone is pretty wild.
Well, we could go back to the late 1930s, even before the war officially began. Those early attempts are fascinating. They show that there was resistance to Hitler almost from the very beginning.
Really? So not everyone was, like totally swept up in that whole Nazi thing.
Not at all. I mean,
Right.
one of the most striking examples from that time is Maurice Bavot.
Maurice Bavot.
Yeah, he was a Swiss theology student.
I'm a theology student.
Yep. And he decided, he was going to take things into his own hands, personally take down Hitler.
Wow, okay.
So in 1938, he goes to Germany, travels all the way there, and he's got this, plan to shoot Hitler during a parade.
A theology student with a gun, that's quite a change.
Right. And, he really believed that killing Hitler was, this moral imperative, the only way to save Europe.
Wow. That takes some serious conviction.
So did he at least know how to use a gun?
He actually bought a pistol.
Hmm.
Just for this mission. Think about that for a second.
That's heavy. So what happened? Did he even get close?
He staked out the parade route, everything. But then at the last minute, Hitler changed his plans. Bavot missed his chance.
Oh, man. That's rough. And, he was later caught, interrogated, and eventually executed by the Nazis.
It's just tragic. But I guess it shows how much these individuals were willing to risk. I mean, even before, the full horror of the Nazis was really clear.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it also shows just how effective the Nazi security apparatus was.
Yeah.
Even a lone individual, someone acting completely on his own conscience, was a huge threat.
Okay, so we've got this individual, this theology student, right?
Mm-hmm.
Driven by his beliefs. Were there any bigger, more organized attempts around this time?
Actually, there was something brewing within the German military itself.
Within the military?
Yeah. So in 1938, you've got this group of high-ranking officers, and they start planning a coup.
Whoa. Hold on. A coup? Like within the army?
Yeah, and these guys were pretty serious. They were disillusioned with Hitler, his expansionist policies, all that. So they were thinking about arresting him, or, maybe even worse.
I mean, were they really prepared to kill Hitler?
Okay.
At this point?
It was on the table, especially if he invaded Czechoslovakia. They were calling it the General's Plot, and they had it all planned out.
But didn't the Munich Agreement happen around then?
Exactly. That kind of messed things up. When Britain and France basically gave Hitler what he wanted, the Sudetenland, the threat of immediate war kind of went away. So the generals lost their momentum.
It's crazy to think about, what if they had acted sooner?
It's a big what if. But, even though the plot didn't actually go anywhere, it shows you that there were cracks, even in the Nazi power structure.
So we've got a theology student, and now we've got some generals. Anyone else trying to take down Hitler around this time?
Well, the most audacious attempt maybe came from the most unlikely source.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so there's this carpenter. His name is Georg Elser.
A carpenter.
Yep, and he was really bothered by all of Hitler's talk, and where Germany was heading. So he comes up with this plan to bomb the Burgerbräu Keller brewery.
Wait, the brewery?
Yeah, that's where Hitler gave his big speeches every year to commemorate, the beer hall push.
Oh, right. Okay, so this carpenter is going to bomb Hitler's, favorite hangout. What's the plan?
So Elser, he starts sneaking into the brewery at night after everyone's gone, right? And he spends months, literally months, hollowing out this pillar in the main hall.
He hollowed out a pillar. By himself.
By himself, to hide a bomb inside. Super risky. It took incredible dedication and skill.
And we're talking, what, like a homemade explosive or something?
Oh, no, this was a serious bomb, a time bomb. He wanted it to go off during Hitler's speech. And get this, it almost worked.
He actually planted it.
He did. November 8, 1939. The bomb detonates right on schedule.
Whoa.
The explosion was massive. It killed 8 people, injured a ton more.
And Hitler, was he?
That's the crazy part. Hitler had changed his plans that day. He left the brewery just 13 minutes before the bomb went off.
13 minutes? Are you serious?
I know, right? Talk about fate. Elster was captured, trying to escape to Switzerland. He was executed later. But his attempt, it's one of the most just haunting stories of the whole war. So close.
It's just, I can't even imagine. What if those 13 minutes had gone differently? What do you think, went wrong with his plan?
I mean, part of it was just, bad luck. But even back then, Hitler's security was super tight. Any little change in his routine could throw everything off.
So even with all that planning, even the smallest detail could change everything.
Absolutely. And as the war went on, things only got harder for those who wanted to stop Hitler.
Wow.
It definitely did, yeah. The plots, they got bolder as the war went on, and I think, maybe a bit more desperate too.
Right. Makes sense. As the war dragged on,
Yeah.
and you see just how awful things are getting, you got to figure the pressure to stop Hitler just kept growing.
Yeah.
So did any of these wartime plots actually almost work?
Oh, yeah. Some of them are really close. Take Operation Flash, for example.
Operation Flash, what's that?
This was 1943, right? And there's this German officer, Henning von Tresckow, who was a key figure in the resistance.
Okay, so he's really working against the Nazis from the inside.
Yeah. And he decides to use a bomb.
Of course. That seems to be the go-to.
Yeah. Well, but he disguises it as, get this, a package of brandy.
Brandy.
Brandy. And they managed to get it onto Hitler's plane.
Wow. That's gutsy.
Right, but then it just wasn't meant to be, I guess. You could say fate intervened.
Wait, what happened? Did someone get cold feet?
No, it was the detonator. It malfunctioned.
Malfunctioned? How?
The plane's cargo hold wasn't heated, and it got so cold that the detonator it froze up.
You're kidding. So Hitler survived because of a frozen bomb.
It's kind of crazy, right? Talk about irony.
Like history itself was trying to keep him alive.
Yeah, it really seemed that way sometimes. And that feeling, the frustration, the desperation, you really see it with the people who came after von Tresckow, guys like Rudolf von Gertsdorf, who were basically ready to do anything to stop Hitler.
Von Gertsdorf, what did he do?
So this is 1943 again. And von Gertsdorf, he's this decorated officer, but he's ready to become a suicide bomber.
A suicide bomber.
Wow.
He was going to set off a bomb hidden under his coat during a tour of a captured Soviet weapons exhibition in Berlin.
Hold on. Hitler was going to be at this weapons exhibition.
Yep. That was the plan.
I mean, that's some serious dedication, to be willing to sacrifice yourself like that.
He was ready to die for his country, for what he believed in.
So what went wrong?
Well, Hitler, always unpredictable. He went through the exhibition super quickly.
Oh, no.
And von Gertsdorf, he just didn't have the chance to set off the bomb.
So close. So many of these plots, it's these little details, right? Changes in schedule, technical problems.
That's amazing, right? And the tiniest thing, they could have such huge consequences.
Life or death, really. And it's really powerful how von Gertsdorf's attempt, even though it failed, it inspired others to try the same thing. Oh, absolutely. Like Axel von den Busche and Ewald Heinrich von Kleist-Schmenzen, both of them, they planned their own suicide bomb attacks in 1944.
So you've got this, chain of bravery.
Yeah.
Each one trying to pick up where the other left off.
Exactly. They saw what von Gertsdorf was willing to do, and they were ready to do the same. But again, things didn't work out.
Why not? What happened to them?
Well, von den Busche, he was going to use a bomb hidden in a uniform, right, during an inspection with Hitler. But then an Allied bombing raid, it destroyed all the uniforms.
Talk about bad timing.
Yeah, it was just awful luck. And then von Kleist-Schmenzen, he was planning to detonate his bomb during a private meeting with Hitler, but he got severely injured in battle before he had the chance.
That's really heartbreaking. And what strikes me is that a lot of these attempts, they're coming from within the German military. It's not just random citizens, right? These are people who swore an oath to Hitler.
That's right. And, I think it really shows that as the war went on, more and more people within the military, they started to see what was happening, the true nature of the Nazis.
And they were willing to go against everything they'd been taught, everything they'd believed in to try and stop it.
Absolutely. They knew Hitler was leading them to disaster, and they were prepared to risk their lives, even betray their oaths to try and stop him.
It must have been such a moral struggle for them.
You can only imagine. And it wasn't just the Germans, of course. The Allies, they were also looking for ways to take Hitler out.
Really? What did they try?
The British, They had a plan. Operation Foxley, they called it.
Operation Foxley.
Yeah. Basically, they were going to send a sniper team to Hitler's Berghof residence, in the Alps.
So like a long-range assassination.
Exactly. Super risky, of course.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So how'd they plan to do it?
They were really thorough, actually. They mapped out Hitler's routines, his movements, everything, looking for the best opportunity. But then, at some point, they just decided to scrap the whole thing.
Wait, why? Wouldn't getting rid of Hitler be a good thing for the Allies?
In theory, yes. But they were worried about what would happen after. Like, what if it created a power vacuum in Germany? Would that make the war last even longer?
I guess that's a possibility.
And some people thought that, a Germany without Hitler, it could actually become even more dangerous. Maybe a new leader would come along who was even more ruthless, more effective.
So they thought it was better to just leave Hitler in charge, even though he was, responsible for all this awfulness.
It's a tough call, right? I mean, they're trying to figure out what's best for the war effort for the future. And sometimes the most obvious solution, killing the enemy leader, it's not always the best one.
It's a good reminder that war is really complicated. The decisions aren't easy.
Yeah, for sure. And even though they didn't go through with Operation Foxley, there were a ton of other assassination attempts happening throughout the war. All these different people, all these different plans.
Were any of them really close to succeeding besides, the ones we already talked about?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There was Eberhard von Breitenbuch. He was a German officer, and he was going to shoot Hitler point blank during a meeting.
No way. He was just going to walk up to him and...
That was the plan. He was incredibly brave.
So what stopped him?
Hitler's security, it was super tight, especially by that point in the war. They changed things up at the last minute, and von Breitenbuch couldn't bring his gun into the meeting.
That's got to be so frustrating to come so close and then just...
I know, but it shows how determined people were to stop Hitler. I mean, look at how many people were willing to risk their lives. It's incredible.
It's almost like Hitler had this aura of invincibility, but then you see all these attempts on his life, and you realize he wasn't so untouchable after all.
Right, and it wasn't just soldiers and spies either. Even people within Hitler's inner circle, they started turning against him, like Albert Speer.
Albert Speer. Wait, wasn't he Hitler's architect and his minister of armaments? Right. He was a big part of the Nazi regime. So what made him turn against Hitler?
Well, Speer, he's a tricky one, right? For years, he was totally devoted to Hitler, really a part of that inner circle. But then, as the war's going badly and you start to see, the full scale of the Nazi atrocities, Speer, he starts to have second thoughts.
So he kind of had a late change his heart.
Maybe. By 1945, Germany's falling apart. And Speer, he realizes that Hitler's just going to take them all down with him. So he comes up with a plan to assassinate Hitler.
I mean, that's wild. But how was he going to do it? He wasn't a soldier or anything.
So Speer's plan, it was simple, but really audacious. He wanted to use poison gas, release it into the ventilation system of Hitler's bunker in Berlin.
Whoa, in the bunker. So he's going to, take out Hitler right in his his safe space.
It was a total gamble, but Germany was on the verge of collapse. Speer was desperate. He just wanted to end the whole nightmare.
Okay, but did it work?
Sadly, no. It was actually something Speer himself had helped create that stopped him. German engineering.
Wait, what do you mean?
So Speer, he goes to check out the bunker's ventilation, and he sees it's way too well designed, too secure. He couldn't get the gas in there without killing everyone, including himself.
So he was hoisted by his own petard.
Pretty much. In the end, he just gave up on the plan. He knew it wouldn't work. Later on, he surrendered to the Allies, ended up at the Nuremberg trials.
Wow. It's incredible how all these attempts on Hitler's life, even though they didn't work, they tell you so much about the people involved,
Yeah.
The whole war.
Absolutely. And what's interesting to me? Hitler, people thought he was invincible, lucky. But he was also incredibly paranoid. The more people tried to kill him, the more security he had. He was trapped in his own little world.
Isolated. So you said before that these plots, even though they didn't kill Hitler, they still mattered. How so?
Well, they showed that Hitler wasn't untouchable, that even in Nazi Germany, people were fighting back.
Yeah, little chinks in his armor.
Right. And even though nobody managed to kill him, I think their actions inspired others to resist, to speak out, to, hold on to hope.
So powerful. Even when everything seems lost, just one person's courage can make a difference.
Exactly. And it's so important to remember these stories, these people who stood up, even when it seemed impossible.
Well said. We've covered a lot today. From those first attempts to stop Hitler, before the war even started, all the way to the end, when everything was falling apart. It's amazing how many people were willing to risk it all to try and change things.
Yeah. And, I think it's a story that's still important today. We're seeing this rise of authoritarianism, extremism all over the world. And the people we talked about today, they remind us that we can fight back, that we have to.
Totally agree. So for anyone listening who wants to, dig deeper into this, definitely check out that YouTube video we mentioned, Little Big Stories of WWII, and the video's called Ways to Kill Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And remember, history's full of stories like this. People who stood up for what they believed in, even when it seemed like a lost cause. Don't stop exploring. Don't stop questioning. And never underestimate how much one person can do to change the world.